You know the scene, right? It's, what, 8 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Ah, yes.
You're at the kitchen table, there's an open textbook in front of you, and it might as well be written in, I don't know, alien hieroglyphics.
And there's a very tired child who suddenly has a desperate need for a glass of water.
Or a snack, or to clean the room, anything, literally anything to avoid that book.
We've all been there.
Yeah, that sense of impending doom because, the history project is due tomorrow. It's the infamous homework battle.
It's the universal struggle of parenthood, I think.
Uh,
And usually, let's be honest, it ends with the parent frantically Googling, what is a covalent bond, while trying to relearn high school chemistry on the fly.
oh, totally. Well, the child is just staring at the ceiling, counting the tiles. It's painful. And frankly, it feels incredibly inefficient.
It is.
Looking at the research we've got today, it just feels like we might be doing it all wrong. We're acting like enforcers. Sit down, do your work, instead of, well, facilitator.
Exactly. And the source material we're diving into today, these excerpts from Texto Collado, proposes a pretty radical shift.
Okay.
It suggests that the way we manage a child's homework is, kind of stuck in the 20th century while the rest of the world has moved on.
But before we get into the solution,
Yes.
I have to play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
When I hear radical shift in education, my brain usually hears more screen time or let an app raise your kid. Is that what we're talking about? Because I don't think any parent wants that.
That's a totally valid fear.
Right.
But this isn't about handing your kid an iPad and walking away.
Mm-hmm.
It uses an analogy that it really caught my attention.
Okay.
It compares a student to a one-person company.
A one-person company. Okay, untack that for me, because my fifth grader is definitely not generating any revenue.
Not yet, anyway. But think about a high-performance freelancer or, solopreneur. To succeed, they can't do everything manually.
Right, they use tools, they use automation, they have a strategy to be efficient.
Precisely. They use agents, software, or systems to handle the heavy lifting so they can focus on the actual high-value work. But with homework, we expect kids to do everything manually.
Rote memorization, passive reading.
Highlighting entire pages until the book is just a solid block of yellow neon.
Oh, the highlighting. I used to do that. I felt so productive, but I wasn't learning a thing.
That is low-leverage work. The source argues students are operating manually. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out, how do we upgrade that company? How do we take a student from manual labor to strategic executive?
And spoiler alert, it involves building a custom AI tutor.
But, and this is so crucial, not to do the work for them.
Right.
This is not about generating an essay in 5 seconds so they can go play video games. It's about building a simulator that forces them to learn faster and deeper.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But we need to get specific because AI is a buzzword that means everything and nothing. The source explicitly mentions a tool called Notebook LM. Why that one? Why not just open ChatGPT and say, teach my kid math?
That is the million-dollar question. The problem with a standard large language model, like the free version of ChatGPT you might use, is that it knows too much.
Too much. I thought the point was that it's smart.
It's knowledgeable, but it's not focused.
Yeah.
I mean, it knows the entire internet. If you ask it about the American Revolution, it might pull in facts from a reliable history book.
But it also might pull from a random blog post.
Right.
Or a conspiracy theory forum.
Exactly. Or it might just hallucinate, just make things up.
Right, and you definitely don't want your fifth grader learning alternative facts for their history test. Actually, teacher, the war was won by aliens.
Exactly. Notebook LM is different because it introduces this concept of grounding.
Grounding.
Think of it like a walled garden. You upload the specific PDF of the textbook chapter or the teacher's handout, and you tell the AI, only use information from this source.
So it puts blinders on the AI. It can't look at the rest of the internet. It can only look at the math worksheet I just gave it.
Correct. It forces reliability. The AI becomes an expert only on that specific text, and that's the foundation for the super prompt the source outlines.
Okay.
Because once you have the tool, you can't just say, help them study. It's too vague. You have to give the AI a job title.
I love this part. The source calls it the prompt of the specialist, and the title isn't simple. It says, to tell the AI, act as a psychopedagogue.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It sounds like I need a PhD just to pronounce it. Why be that specific? Why not just act as a teacher?
Because words matter to these models. Teacher is generic. A teacher might just lecture you. But a psychopedagogue implies a specific set of skills.
Like what?
Understanding cognitive processes, recognizing learning nuances. It signals to the AI that we care about the method of learning, not just the content.
So it sets the vibe. It tells the AI, we aren't just looking for answers, we're looking for brain development.
Exactly. And the prompt goes on to give very specific instructions on how to teach. It says to focus on active recall and space repetition.
Okay, buzzword alert. We hear these terms a lot in productivity circles. But for the parent listening who hasn't been in a classroom in 20 years, what do those actually mean in practice?
Well, think of active recall as the opposite of rereading. Most kids study by just reading the chapter over and over. That's passive.
Right.
Active recall is closing the book and forcing your brain to retrieve the answer from scratch.
It's the difference between recognizing a face in a crowd and being able to draw that face from memory on a blank piece of paper.
Perfect analogy. One is easy, the other is hard. But the hard one creates the memory.
Got it. And space repetition.
That just handles the timing, reviewing the material right before you're about to forget it.
And the source adds a kicker to this prompt. It says, you must not just give answers, but act as a Socratic tutor.
This is the game changer. If the student asks, what is the capital of France? A normal bot says Paris.
Right.
A Socratic tutor says, well, look at the map of Europe we just reviewed. It's in the north-central part of the country. Which major city is there?
It forces the student to connect the dots. It's refusing to spoon-feed.
Exactly. It builds neural pathways rather than just filling in a blank.
So we have the setup, we have the wall garden notebook LM, we have the persona, the psychopedagogue. Now the source breaks this down into actionable pillars. What to extract for your children's education. There are 5 of them.
Let's do it.
Pillar number 1, language transformation. This sounds fancy, but the examples in the text are really fun.
This pillar is my favorite because it solves the biggest barrier to entry, boredom. Often, a child isn't struggling because they aren't smart enough. They're struggling because the vocabulary is just dry and boring.
The legislative branch creates the statutes. Snooze.
Exactly. So the source suggests asking the AI to adapt technical content like photosynthesis or fractions into language for the child's specific age. And it goes a step further. It says to use analogies based on their specific interests.
Okay, let's play this out. Let's say I have a kid who is obsessed with Minecraft.
Very common.
And they need to learn about, I don't know, how a cell produces energy, mitochondria.
Okay, so you tell the AI, explain the function of the mitochondria using Minecraft analogies.
And what does it say?
It might say something like, imagine the mitochondria is the furnace in your base. You put in coal, that's the food you eat, and the furnace burns it to create energy so you can craft items and survive the night.
That actually makes immediate sense.
Right. Or if they love soccer, you explain physics through the trajectory of a ball. Gravity is the opposing team dragging the ball down. It creates a semantic bridge.
It's taking a new, scary concept and anchoring it to something they already understand deeply.
And it creates an emotional hook. Memory is tied to emotion. If you can link fractions to loot distribution in a video game, you've won half the battle.
Okay, I'm sold on that one. Pillar number 2, gap analysis. This sounds very corporate. Son, we need to run a gap analysis on your geography knowledge before dinner.
It sounds corporate, but it is incredibly efficient. Think about how most kids study for a test. They have a chapter to read, they start at page 1.
And they read to page 20. Even if they already know pages 1 through 10 perfectly, they just plod through.
Right. And here is the trap. It creates the illusion of competence. They read the familiar stuff at the beginning. They feel good. They nod along.
I know this. I know this.
Then they hit page 15, which is hard. It's uncomfortable. So what do?
They skim it. Or they check their phone.
Exactly. They drift. And inevitably, page 15 is exactly what shows up on the test.
Always. It's Murphy's Law of studying.
So gap analysis flips this. You upload the chapter to the AI and say, create a diagnostic quiz to find my weak points. The student takes the quiz before they study.
It exposes the cracks immediately.
Ruthlessly. It says, okay, you know the dates of the battles, but you don't understand the causes of the war. Great. Now we only study the causes. You just saved 2 hours.
I wish I had that in college. I spent so much time rereading things I already knew because it felt safe.
We all did. Tackling the gaps is harder, but it's where the actual learning happens.
Moving on to pillar number 3. Creation of study agents. This sounds like sci-fi. Are we building robots?
Not robots, but personalities. This is where the tech really shines for interactivity. The source suggests using the AI to simulate a debate or an interview.
So instead of just reading about a historical figure, you talk to them.
Exactly. Let's say the topic is the American Revolution. You can tell the AI, role play as King George III. I'm going to argue why the colonies should be independent. try to stop me.
Oh, wow. So you're actually arguing with the text.
You're debating the text, and think about what that requires. To win that debate against the AI, you can't just memorize dates. You have to understand the king's motivations, the economic context. You have to synthesize information to make an argument.
It turns studying into a game. It's role play.
And it's social. The human brain treats conversation as a social interaction, which is way more engaging than just solitary reading.
I can see that being huge for kids who hate quiet time studying. Okay. Pillar number 4 connects back to that efficiency idea. Optimization of study time, specifically using the Pareto principle.
The famous 80-20 rule. The source advises asking the AI to identify the 20% of the content that will generate 80% of the understanding needed for the exam.
Now I can hear the parents listening getting nervous again. Wait, isn't that cutting corners? Shouldn't my child learn everything in the book?
It's a valid concern, but let's be real about modern schooling. There is an overload of information. Students drown in details. The Pareto principle here isn't about ignoring the rest. It's about prioritization.
It's about building the skeleton before you add the skin.
Exactly. If you master the core concepts, the structural beams, the details stick much easier. If you try to memorize every footnote without understanding that core 20%, you lose everything.
That makes sense. It's teaching them to filter signal from noise.
Correct.
And finally, pillar number 5, practical application guide.
This is about moving learning off the paper and off the screen. The source suggests asking the AI to suggest a small hands-on project based on the reading.
So knowledge becomes experience. Give me an example.
If you're reading about geometry and calculating area, the AI shouldn't just give you more worksheets. It should say, go measure the living room and calculate how much carpet we would need to buy.
Or if it's biology.
Go find 3 different types of leaves in the backyard and identify their vein patterns based on what we just read. It grounds the abstract theory in the physical world.
I love that. It stops the, when am I ever going to use this complaint in its tracks.
You're using it right now to measure the rug. It solidifies the memory in a completely different way.
So we have these 5 pillars, but I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the personality of this AI. We talked about the psychopedagogue label, but the source makes a really big distinction between a standard chatbot and what it calls an education agent.
This is the pedagogical shift. A chatbot, the way most people use ChatGPT, is a vending machine. You put in a prompt, you get a snack, summarize this book, and it gives you a summary. It's passive.
Right. It's Cliff Notes on demand.
Exactly. But the education agent, configured with that specific prompt, acts like a coach. It's there to check your form. The source says it questions the student, gives clues when they make mistakes, and adapts the difficulty in real time.
Gives clues. That is such a subtle but important difference. It doesn't say, you're wrong, the answer is 42.
No, it says, not quite. Look at how you added the variables in the second step.
That's the Socratic method again.
It forces the student to do the cognitive heavy lifting. And the source adds another layer to this agent's persona, the tone guidelines. It instructs the AI to be inspirational, patient, and didactic.
Patient. That is the key word for me.
It's the most important word in the script. Let's be honest about the parent experience. You've had a long day, you're tired, you're hungry, and now you're trying to explain long division for the 10th time.
And your voice starts to get that edge. You know the one. We just went over this. Why aren't you getting it?
Exactly. And the moment that edge appears, the child shuts down, their cortisol spikes, their brain goes into fight or flight, and learning stops.
It becomes about avoiding the parent's anger, not
understanding the math.
Yeah.
Precisely. But the AI has infinite patience. It never gets frustrated, it never sighs, it never checks the clock.
It's the saintly tutor we all wish we could be, but simply don't have the energy to be at 8:30 p.m.
It removes the emotional friction from failure. If a child gets an answer wrong with a parent, they feel like they're disappointing them. If they get it wrong with the AI, it's just data. Oops, try again. It makes it safe to fail.
That leads us perfectly into the bigger picture here. The source calls this the future of education, and it makes a bold claim that AI resolves the biggest problem in school standardization.
This is the core argument. Schools, by necessity, are factories. They process batches of students by age, delivering the same content at the same speed. If you're faster, you get bored. If you're slower, you get left behind.
It's a one-size-fits-all model in a world where one size fits nobody.
Completely. This one-person company approach allows for a custom pace and style for every child. If your kid needs 3 weeks on fractions, but only 1 day on geometry, the AI adapts.
And this changes the parent's job description. The source text has a great line about this. The parent moves from being the collector of lessons, the enforcer, to the facilitator.
The collector of lessons is a stressful role. You're just checking boxes. Did you do page 40? The facilitator focuses on the outcome. Do you understand the concept?
So the parent sets up the system, loads the content, sets the prompt, and then steps back.
To a degree. You're ensuring the quality of the learning environment. You aren't teaching the math. You're ensuring the system is set up for the child to learn the math. It shifts the dynamic from parent versus child to parent and child versus the material.
With the AI as the bridge, that's a much healthier dynamic for a Tuesday night.
Much healthier.
Yeah.
And it empowers the child. They start to see learning as something they can control, not something that is done to them.
Also, the source mentions the Feynman technique in the prompt instructions. We skipped over that, but it feels important.
Oh, absolutely. The instruction explicitly tells the AI to use the Feynman method explaining complex concepts simply. His rule was, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it.
So the AI is modeling that level of clarity.
Yes, it's stripping away the jargon and creating clarity.
So let's recap the strategy here, because this is really a blueprint. If I'm a parent listening and I want to try this tonight, what are the steps?
Step 1. Don't use a generic chatbot. Use a tool like Notebook LM where you can control the source material. Upload the curriculum. Create that walled garden.
Step 2, the super prompt. Assign the persona, act as a psychopedagogue.
And instruct it to focus on active recall and spaced repetition. No free answers. Socratic Tutor.
Step 3, use the pillars. If they're stuck, translate the language into their interests. Minecraft, soccer, whatever.
Step 4. Run a gap analysis quiz before studying to see what they don't know. Don't waste time on what they do.
Step 5, make it interactive. Create study agents to debate. Focus on the 80-20. And finally, take it off screen with a hands-on project.
That's it. It sounds like a lot, but once you have that prompt saved, it's really just copy, paste, and upload.
That's the beauty of the one-person company analogy. You set up the system once, and then it runs. You are front-loading the effort to save hours of frustration later.
And hours of tears.
You know, what I love about this is that it frames AI not as a shortcut to bypass learning, which is what everyone fears, but as a tool to deepen it. It's not about doing less work, it's about doing smarter work.
It creates deep work for students. Instead of passively highlighting a textbook, they're debating, quizzing, explaining. That's where retention happens.
So here's a question to leave you with, based on everything we've discussed. We talked about gap analysis. This ability for AI to instantly scan a student's knowledge and pinpoint exactly what they don't understand.
Right. Instant, precise diagnosis.
If we can do that, if we can instantly identify the gap and fix it with a custom analogy in real time, what does that do to the necessity of the big, scary end-of-year standardized test?
That is the billion-dollar question.
The whole point of a standardized test is to dip a thermometer in at the end of the year and see what's stuck. It's an autopsy of the learning process.
But if the diagnosis is continuous, if you're checking the vitals every single day, the autopsy becomes irrelevant.
If learning is continuous and diagnosis is instant, do we still need the final exam? Something to chew on next time you're staring at that math textbook. Thanks for diving in with us.
A pleasure.